Well, hey, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Marie Fertoni, the CEO of Get Clients Everywhere. And I want to welcome you all to this episode of Share Your Shine. These are interviews that I do with my colleagues, my clients, my friends, and who give them an opportunity to be more visible in the world and to get their message out to our amazing audience. And I'm excited today to have with me my new friend. We've been in a mastermind together for a couple of years, and I'm so excited that I'm going to meet her this week in person. We've had a Zoom relationship here for a while, but I'd like to introduce you to Andrea Isaacs, who is just amazing. Andrea, welcome to this episode.
Oh, hi, Marie. It's a delight to be here with you.
It's really fun. Let me just say a few words about Andrea, but I'm going to just kind of give the big picture, and then I'm going to like really invite her to tell us what she wants us to know about her. Because I was reading her website, besides knowing her and having the experience of her as a key member of our mastermind, that Andrea is a speaker, a trainer, and a master coach. And she is in the space of personal mastery, leadership, and she's called a master of change. Now, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of things in my life that I want to change, and that I'm really very happy that I know someone like Andrea who can help facilitate my way of growing and expansion. If you want to take a quick moment and reach out to her, you can check her out at andrea-isaacs.com, and that will bring up her whole experience, which is just there. But she's called a spiritual teacher extraordinaire. And I love that. Tell us what you mean by that. What does that say for you?
Oh, sweet. No one's asked me that yet. That's funny. I have never led with that, even though my spiritual practice has been part of my life. Well, in more years, I mean, I'd really give away my age if I say this, but since the late 60s, it's been a big part of my life. And I gradually started integrating it into my coaching. First, I thought they were separate worlds, and I kept them very separate. And without leading with it, what I've discovered is that when we want to grow or change and we're not, there's always a good reason. And it's usually something related to a wound that happened way back when. So I have found that this happened rather unconsciously, it was just intuitive where I went. I accessed my higher self and accessed the higher self of the person I was talking with, who gave me a precious download about what that person exactly needs to hear. And I read it back to them. And the truth is, we are all spiritual beings. The truth is, we deserve to be our highest self, to live from that perspective all the time. And yet, so few of us do. I would say no one does, but I'm sure there are exceptions. And when we get that message and when we heal those wounds, we can access our true self. And so people have reflected back to me what you just said. They've called me a spiritual teacher extraordinaire. I wouldn't have, and I like saying that I'm called that because I wouldn't have the guts to say it, even though when I hear it, I go, yeah, I do that. I help you embody your true self, because what the stuff that's holding us back, that's not real. It's what people tell us who are either afraid of our light or are afraid you might outshine them or they don't understand. We deserve to live and to be all that we are. That's my deepest passion.
I just love that. I mean, it's like, boy, we could just even stop right here and have a powerful thing, but we're not going to. I want to go a little bit deeper because one of the things that you've said is that change can be easy.
Yeah,
And yet I know, like as a coach and some of the people that I work with, I mean, they find it really difficult to sometimes even make a tiny change. And if that tiny change were made, something else really opens
yeah,
up. But what do you think has us stay so rooted or so grounded inside of
yeah.
our stuff?
There's so many reasons. One is you may not be ready for the consequences, although they may not be as bad as you might imagine, and it might bring you someplace you prefer.
Mhm.
Another one, and this is really big, is people just don't know how to make change easy. And another reason, which is really huge, is when we're not changing, it means the pattern that we're stuck in, the thing we want to change, the way of thinking, feeling, or being we want to change, has been around for a while. that means the neural pathway for that way of thinking, feeling, or being gets strengthened, just like our muscles get bigger and stronger when we go to a gym and work out. Every time you have that thought, that feeling, or you do that thing you do, that neural pathway gets stronger. And it's great if it's a pathway like confidence and speaking up for yourself and having courage and so on. And it's really difficult if that pattern that you repeat so often is a pattern that says something like, oh, I don't know, I don't think I should do it, or maybe I shouldn't, or I don't deserve it, or what would people say, or do I have it in me, or whatever it is that's holding you back, has a very strong neural pathway. And they're running I call them the whammies. The whammies are running the show. And when the whammies are running the show, you can't change. We have to be in the driver's seat. We have to be behind the wheel, making the choices about the direction of our thoughts, the direction of our feelings, and which determine the directions of our actions. And what I have found is that when we go back to the first imprint of that neural pathway, no matter when it was, there's space. There's because those wounds take up room. And when we heal the wound, there's space. And I always ask my clients after we've done this healing process, well, what's in that space now? And I so often hear something like, I'm free. I'm free to be. I'm free to be me. I'm free to be all me. I'm free to be who I am.
I mean, wow. It's a gift that you have, and you've been well trained in order to be able to deliver those results for people. And I want a presence for our listeners or our viewers here today that Andrea is somebody who has studied emotional intelligence. She's very well versed and a leader in the space of the Enneagram, body wisdom, and of course, neuroscience and spiritualism. All of that together, that holistic piece that she gets to bring to her clients through her programs is just remarkable. And you've been doing this for quite a long time. You also work with small teams and leadership in companies as well as individuals like my audience. Is that
Yeah,
true?
absolutely. So first about teams, there's one team I worked with, and the leader, the CEO was leaving. And in the process of his leaving, he was telling me that people aren't stepping up in their leadership and everybody's dispersed and going in different directions. And so I went in, and as I know you know, Maria, I have a quiz. It's called the EQ quiz. And
Mhm.
it's a very simple quiz. It takes 5 or 10 minutes to take it, but I can deduce a lot of information from their blueprint, which is the results of their quiz. And then I had conversations with each of the team members where they saw themselves holistically in terms of their true self, as I was describing before, with all their unique combination of gifts. And I also saw the challenges that were holding them back from their life purpose or their soul purpose or from living their gifts. And then I presented to the whole team, each person, gifts and foibles and all. And so there was a sense of being seen for all that they are and being seen with some foibles. And it developed some such compassion and empathy among each other. Prior to that, there was the person who was stepping into leadership in the absence of the outgoing leader had anger issues, and people didn't trust her. And what happened after that is trust was a topic that was on the table.
Mhm.
The anger issues that the leader had, people understood. And her anger just, it dissipated. And then people stepped up into their leadership. And I was told afterwards that the work with me became a trajectory for what was next. I'm sorry, it was rocket fuel for their trajectory. So that's one example.
I mean, that's amazing. If you just look at that, boy, that's a great little tagline. It's like you could be like Andrea, the rocket fuel for your trajectory.
I hadn't thought of using it that way, Marie. Thank you.
I just
It's right
listened,
there,
but
right in front of me.
I mean, it's just really, really, really great. I know that when people work with you, I mean, you gave a great example of that, but let's say if you were working not so much with teams, but for some of the individual entrepreneurs, the
Sure.
solopreneurs, I work with a lot of people that have been, I think, are really very smart. They've been very talented. They've been in corporate America with some pretty good jobs and some pretty decent paychecks. And then for whatever reason, whether they wanted to or didn't want to, they find themselves all of a sudden in this space of entrepreneurism and they're kind of like it's a little bit of a different world. What is it that when people work with you, what happens for them? What would you say is, you've talked about some transformation, but not to sound hokey with it, but what is the transformation that you provide? Or I'm guessing in a way it's probably very individual per client or person, yes?
Well, it is. It's very individual, and there are some things that are sort of generic and true across the board. Sure. So as one of my teachers way back when said something like this: if you're serious about being an entrepreneur, it will be the biggest personal development journey of your life. And at first, I didn't take it seriously because I've been in the personal development world since before we had a name for it. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. I got that. That part I got. Boy, was I wrong, because it hit any button I ever had. And as an entrepreneur, because as an entrepreneur, there's so many things. One is you have a gift you want to bring the world, you have a message. And that means you're going to be seen. That means you have to be seen. And that by itself can push buttons for people. Oh, I'm not a public speaker. What if they see me as a fraud? Or what if I'm not up to it? Any doubt they ever had will arise. And again, it goes back to those early wounds or some imprint that you have that maybe you're not up to it, maybe you're not enough. And the other thing, many other things, but one other thing is, as an entrepreneur, we're always wanting to grow. And I see life as an ongoing learning journey. I always want to be an even better human being. And that also means that it's an ongoing growth journey. And so as an entrepreneur, as you wanting to grow yourself and grow your business, you're always having to step outside your comfort zone, because by definition, growing means you haven't done that or been that yet. So you don't have a neural pathway for it yet. So one of the things that I do with people is we go back, there's the healing bit, wounds take up room, and then there's no room for that next bigger, bolder version of you. And so in doing that work with me, I guide leaders and entrepreneurs to step outside their comfort zone and to embody that next bigger, bolder version of themselves, so they have the courage and the confidence to be seen in a bigger way.
I just love that, and I think you can see, um, our audience here, the listeners and the viewers, can really see that even in your speaking about what it is that you do, you're masterful about how you speak and how you get it present for all of us. So say a little bit more about, like, who is your favorite, perfect, ideal client that you love to work with, that you can really make a difference with, and you hope that they like dial the phone or dial you on social media and say, Andrea, I want in. Who is that
Oh,
person?
oh yeah. I love it when you know you have a gift to bring the world, you have a message, and for some reason it's not happening the way you want it. No matter what level of business you have, when you're wanting to bring it to the world in a bigger way, that I love working with people who like that. And when you're willing to take a look at yourself, because if we want to grow our business, we have to grow ourselves. And how we do anything is how we do everything. And I want people who want to see themselves in the whole picture of humanity and the whole picture of who they are. And then we can really do some serious work together.
I just love that. It's really good. I would have to underline what you said about being in business is really an entrepreneurial journey of personal growth. I mean, I can think of the things that I've had to overcome or push through, as I've been on my journey, and it
Mhm.
never ends. I mean, there's always the next thing to push through, you know. And
True.
so
Yeah.
it pays to. I always want to say to folks, it pays to have a beautiful network with really wonderful, talented people that can be there in support of what it is that you're up to and can stand for your success and to be that. So this is a great example of doing that. I know that one of the things that you want to guide people to your website is your EQ quiz. Is that correct? Tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
So EQ stands for emotional quotient, like IQ. It's emotional intelligence, also known as AI, but I mean EI. I like EQ because it rhymes with IQ. So the EQ quiz is initially based on a personality system called the Enneagram. Ennea means nine in Greek, and it describes 9 different personality traits, each with predictable gifts and challenges. Now, I really want to point out too that my work is not just about the Enneagram. And though I have been and I am an Enneagram teacher, my work goes beyond it.
Yeah.
Because I see in their blueprint, which is the results of the quiz, and it's 18 questions, and I see not just about your type. Yes, it's a personality typology system. Seeing one's type, I believe, is a very narrow way of looking at this system. When I see the blueprint, I see your gifts and challenges in 18 areas. It's all relevant. They all impact, all those scores impact each other and impact you. Here's a common combination of scores for entrepreneurs, for example. So entrepreneurs have ideas, right? Usually many ideas. I know that's true for you. I know how many interests you have. And I would say, if I may, that it is really a gift you have to be so flexible and have so much variety. And it can be your biggest challenge. So what
Truly.
so what I can see in the blueprint is there's this score that tells me you're an idea generator, you have all these ideas and possibilities, and I can see what I call the scattered whammy, which means if you don't get your gut knowing online, and that's another score I can see. If that gut knowing score is low, if your gut knowing is not online, you're not making that gut decision that helps you pick that one thing that you're going to focus on right now and take to the end. And then there's another score, which I call your focus score, which is a resultant whammy of the gut knowing being offline and keeping you scattered. And then when the focus is offline, it impacts another score called the achiever score, which means you're not getting done as much as you want to get done. You might be achieving quite a bit, but you know you've got more. And so when I see that combination, I go, oh, wow. And it's not that, oh, goes back to when you're saying, well, maybe this is one thing you want to tweak. I call that one thing, I call it the first domino. So what I can see when there's a series of scores impacting each other, giving you this result, if I can't do anything, it's not getting done. We go back to the first domino. What's the first thing that put that whole cycle of events in place? And sometimes it's not changing your type or change. It could just be getting your gut knowing online again. And the reason it's not online could be at one point in life, either confidence was shattered or trust was broken. Again, this is unique for everybody. But we go to the reason behind the first thing that put that cycle in motion. And then just like dominoes, the first one falls down, it impacts the rest of them. You can also stand up all your dominoes when you change that first domino. And then change can happen like this. All those things can happen.
Transformation is beautiful, you know. It's I mean, this is just so great. I mean, I think everybody here can see, you know, that Andrea is very fluent in what it is, and she has a love for it, and the joy comes through. And if people wanted to reach out to you, Andrea, what's the best way that they can find you?
The easiest thing to say right now is to get your free emotional mastery toolkit. And there's a short link for it. It's the eqquiz.com. It's EQQUIZ.com. So it has a double Z in the middle. But it is the toolkit. The quiz is the first part of the toolkit. And then you get the emotional mastery blueprint, which is a visual of your results. And your blueprint gives me so much information. And it's more than you can deduce from a piece of paper or from just looking at a graph. So then you get the emotional mastery interpretation guide. So you get a sense of what all those scores mean. And there's a very short 4-minute clip on what is emotional mastery. There's also a link to what I call the Enneagram whammies. And you can get
I
a
love
sense
that.
when you listen to the whammies webinar. It was before we had Zoom. When you listen to the whammies webinar, you start to understand your own challenges better. And then because there's a way I interpret each individual blueprint that's not generic. The guide is by nature has to be generic. But when I see your blueprint, you're unique. You are. Just like snowflakes, we too are unique. And when I look at your blueprint, I would interpret one's blueprint differently than in the guide. For instance, if someone has really strong challenges and low gifts or whatever, maybe 1 to 4 is low, 5 to 7 is average, middle, and 7 to 10 is high, whatever. What if, and this really struck me when I first started doing the interpretations of the quiz. What if your gifts are all like a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10? They're all a 10, but maybe one score is maybe an 8 or a 9. And maybe your challenges are all really low, like a 1. And there's one challenge that's a 3. Now, according to the guide, you're perfect. There's nothing wrong going on here, but yet this person knows there's something not right. And so, relatively speaking, for that person, even though 7 to 10 is a high score, because you know what, you scored an 8 here, there's something missing. Let's look at that. Or if your challenges are all like a 1, and that's really great, even 1 to 3 is low. Why is that red score? Why is that challenge a 3? Let's talk about that. And so even when it looks like, according to the generic guide, that there's nothing going on here. I really love talking to people one on one so I can give you the interpretation of how I see it because we are all unique. And so the guide also includes actually right now, there's a special for that call with me. In fact, if you schedule your call in the near future, you can have a $250 savings on that private call.
Nice. That's really great. So going back here, just to reiterate for our listeners, they could go to your website. First, they go to andrea-isaacs.com. Is
Well, they
that
don't
correct?
have to go there first. They could just go to
Oh,
eqquiz.com.
oh, okay. eqquiz.com. Let me make a
Mhm.
note of the .com there.
Yeah,
Um, very
EQQUIZ.
good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Um, so that's the best way for people to get really connected and familiar and actually just get a taste of the value that you provide, that you're providing the sense that we can all walk away with a no level of understanding. And if we want to do more with you, it's very easy to connect up and schedule that appointment. I think this is just really great. I'm so grateful to get to know you. I'm so excited to actually get to hang out with you next week in Orlando.
I
And,
know, me too.
I know it's fun.
Yeah.
And, many of us, I think, online, and we've had relationships on Zoom for a long time. And it's like when you get to meet them in person, it's like, oh, you're taller than I thought, or you're shorter than I thought, or, it's just kind of fun to just kind of
I know.
see the
Yeah.
holistic person that's with us. But I'm excited about that. I'm glad, Andrea, that you are in my circle of brilliance. And I want to thank you for being with us today on this episode of Share Your Shine. Really awesome job. Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
Oh, thank you so much, Maria. I love you. I love your questions. I love your capacity to hold it all. And I love all that you're doing.
It's very fun. And for our listeners and viewers, again, this is Marie Fertoni, the CEO of Get Clients Everywhere. And I am here with Andrea Isaacs. Welcome and say thank you for being with us on this Share Your Shine interview for today. And I wish you all an amazing weekend. Have a wonderful, wonderful time.